Well, part of it is just practicality. The idea was that it would be somewhere in the Botanic Garden here, and this is kind of a spot between two campuses that are shared, you know, they share the academics, and so the idea of putting it on one campus or the other was resolved by just putting it kind of in the middle, you know, and then, you know, given this arboretum, we'd say, well, we could work back in the woods, but if we did, how many people would walk back there to see it? You know, there are some school children come out every day, and there's lots of students come out for, you know, walking, but and also there's scientific experiments and stuff that they're doing. We've seen them out here all the time, but really, there's not that much play. And here, the football team, the football traffic parks across the street. You know, anybody that's going in and out of the college is get to stop and see, or they could potentially stop. And you know, so not only is it siting it in a way that people can easily get to it, but trying to build a scale that actually, you know, advertises itself and makes people want to stop and take a look. You know, if it was too small, you would think insignificant. Why should I bother? Trying to build something that excites people, things that are out of kilter, that are falling against each other, you know, in my mind suggests a kind of community that is dependent on each other, but in reality just the structural aspects of things seeming to careen towards the ground or have to be just barely caught or something is more exciting than things that are standing upright. You know, there's a vulnerability about the saplings and about the shapes we chose, and also about the way that they lean on each other. So, you know, that just makes a bit more excitement to it. So in this case, we had the idea that these things would basically kind of lean over like you were still attached to your feet and one foot wasn't up, but you just kind of lean over like this, and there's a naturalness to that. You know, buddy-buddy. These things are buddy-buddy to each other. Early on, I realized that partnering with an organization was a good way of building a sculpture because you could use their leverage and their goodwill in the community to get the things organized for the sculpture, like where you're going to put it, particularly say it's going to be on a street corner or the mayor's got to weigh in. Early on, I realized that partnering with an organization was a good way of building a sculpture because you could use their leverage and their goodwill in the community to get the things organized for the sculpture, like where you're going to put it, particularly say it's going to be on a street corner or the mayor's got to weigh in, the risk manager's got to weigh in, everybody's got, and so you need help in kind of threading your way through that. And so ultimately people, I'd say, well, I'm probably going to need to hire a couple people to help me, and they'd say, oh no, we've got plenty of volunteers. So over a period of time I've learned to use more volunteers, and I wouldn't say that that's the purpose of my work. It's not. My purpose of my work is to build a great sculpture that excites people's imagination. One of the secondary gains is that I've managed to figure out how to use a number of people to, you know, be involved in it through the organization. And it's always hard to hate a sculpture if your neighbors are working on it. So it is a little bit self-serving, and it endears the people that work on it to the sculpture, and then their friends come down and look at it. And so it's easier to embed the sculpture in the community if there's some support, public support, because people have gotten intimate or good feelings about it. So, you know, I don't have to do it this way, but sometimes I do, and more or less. So, you know, in this case, one of their agendas was to have a number of people work on the piece. So, you know, maybe we'd have a lot more than we normally would have if, say, you were working for Botanic Garden. You might have less people, or a private individual. You might just get a couple people to come help you, and you'd work on it, you know. Sometimes it's a college class that helps 6 people, or, you know, it works out in lots of different ways. But I do need help in doing it and producing these really large works, and so I've gotten really good at being easy with people and turning their best intentions to my needs. I would say that the big thing is that there's a 3-week sequence in which the work starts, and then it's finished 3 weeks later. And so during that, there's always a way that it starts out. People are wondering what it is, and maybe saying, "Oh, that's not going to work out. That's a stupid thing." And you often have the same people driving by or walking by, and the site where you're at. So there is a kind of conversion that has to take place where the piece looks better, it has more credibility, it shows better. Some of the vitality that we're putting into it, and also some of our forethought about how the piece sits at site comes into play, and they think, "Oh yeah." And the "oh yeah" has to do with the way we've turned it a certain way, placed it away, the certain way that the imagery we've chosen for that site, so that it's somehow there's in consonance with something, a milieu that's happening there or something. So
people remind me of the bird nest.
And over that 3-week period, there's a way that people get more and more fond of it. They don't look at you at first, and then they look a little more, and then oftentimes the end of the road, they're coming up in droves and talking to you, going through it, taking a look at it. And I think this piece will be similarly successful. Remind me of the bird nests they've seen, and indigenous tribes and childhood play. I kind of find reminiscence in my own approach to things, and all that those associations that people are bringing to the work. So I've learned as much about the work from the viewers that have come up and talked to me as I knew about it when I began.